No Way, No Discussion by Rubio. Chapter 1. The Garden. Each morning, she and Mum used to visit the garden, spending special moments enjoying birds singing, sky serenity, the mix of flower colors, green grass, flowers combining all shades of yellow, red, blue, and white were like a rainbow receiving the hummingbirds and telling her good morning. Hope doesn't remember other children to be there, maybe due to be so early in the morning. No one interrupting those calm and wonderful moments. In reality, those used to be the only calm moments of each day. Now she was 10 and started to try to understand that something very wrong used to happen at home. She couldn't understand why her father was ever angry, shouting, breaking everything, and hitting her mum. When younger, she even thought that probably her mother wasn't a good wife, as he always was complaining about the food, about the house cleaning, about his clothes not to be well worn, and about her mum to be ugly. Now, Hope already started to analyze that situation and couldn't understand very well the reason of those complaints. Her mother wasn't using makeup anymore, and Hope remembers hearing from her father that she shouldn't use it, as this wasn't appropriate for a wife and mother. Also, colorful clothes, high-heeled shoes, long hair, short dresses, and a lot of things that should make her look nicer wasn't appropriate for a wife and mother. No discussion was accepted, and her beautiful mother was day by day becoming blue. Sadness was making her appear to be much older she always was. Anyway, he was very much nice and caring to Hope, and she started to think that he probably wasn't too bad, that maybe his demands were right. Time was passing on, and they were continuing to go each day to the garden. Every morning, early in the morning, those wonderful, calm, colorful mornings before starting daily activities. Sometimes Hope had the feeling of running away on those walks up to the garden, as it was the breathed refuge from any problem. Bruises started to appear on her mother's body without any reason. Sometimes Hope thought that she was getting sick, as her mom was crying on those days when the bruises could be seen. Only place making her stop crying definitely was the garden, with its rainbow of colors, flowers, birds, and its song. That was hers and her mom's safe harbor. No discussion. Chapter 2. Not Today. When Hope waked up and saw so many people at her home, she felt something that could never explain. It was a mix of confusion and unknown feelings that she would like to understand. All the family was there, everybody crying, and she couldn't really understand what was happening. Neither Mom nor Daddy was at home, and she didn't understand why she had to go to Grandma's home. The house seemed careless, things broken and out of place. Hope, thinking that was important to clean everything and put each thing in the right place before Daddy gets angry. All the family was there but Mom and Daddy, and things continued out of place. On the way to Grandma's home, everything was very clear. No clouds in the blue sky, and the green trees' leaves looked to have lots of colored dots. The small flowers were very much beautiful dots. One tree was yellow, another red, and there were a lot of pink ones. Probably the birds were on those trees, following Hope, as that day she would not visit the garden. She couldn't understand the reason everybody was sad, if the weather was so happy. Soon she would realize it. After 2 days asking when she could go back home, Grandma took care of her and asked her to wear that beautiful gray dress. Once again, all the family was together. A lot of cars going through those tree-lined streets. Now stopping the cars, one next to the other. Grandma walking beside her, holding Hope's hand. Hope could no longer say anything after seeing her mother there, lying in that coffin, seemed to be asleep. She tried to ask her to get up, but Mom couldn't hear her voice, and if she wasn't hearing Hope, no reason to continue speaking. Daddy wasn't there, and nobody could explain her what was happening, as all of them were crying too much and also could not talk either. On the way back, Hope was thinking about her mom, her daddy, the trees, the flowers, the birds, the garden, without being able to draw so much sadness from within. Her heart hurt, and Mom wasn't there to take that pain away with her kisses, like when she hurt her knee. Today, Hope would not go with Mom to the garden, neither today, nor any other day. No discussion. Chapter 3. Grandma. Time passed on, and with it, the heritage started to be weaker. In reality, Grandma used not to let Hope time to feel any pain. She was ever telling her the importance of studying, of having a profession, of being independent and self sufficient. Every night, Grandma told her stories: Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Little Red Riding Hood, and a lot of other stories where girls and princesses used to be strong and independent. The prince was ever a businessman, handsome, successful, and no doubt gentle and considerate. When Hope was becoming older, telling stories was replaced by some time of conversation. They used to talk about Hope's classes, about worldwide news, country's financial situation, and she used to explain Grandma about her friends. She was ever able to clarify doubts and give good advice. Grandma was a very much intelligent woman. Life wasn't easy to her, and due to family difficulties, she wasn't able to attend secondary education. But she was always trying to learn something. She'd been this way during all life, learning from TV, from books, from newspapers, from everyone that could elucidate her doubts. Grandma was the most intelligent woman Hope knew. Every night, during those conversations, she used to repeat Hope the importance to have a profession, as her difficulties had always been increased not having one. Working long hours, getting a small salary, definitely had made her life more difficult. Happiness, studying, and helping Grandma with housekeeping was great, and life was quite perfect as her sight. She would study social sciences. Grandma had ever repeated Hope. No matter what you study, the most important is trying to do something that you love. Consult your heart. Don't worry if you can earn lots of money with the chosen profession or not. If it makes you happy, you're already winning. In reality, your profession, no matter what, will enable you to be autosufficient. And this will ever mean freedom. No discussion. Chapter 4. Routine Break. Once a month, their daily routine was broken. This carefully chosen day, a Sunday, they used to go to visit Hope's mom. There, they used to let flowers, never cut ones, ever flower spots, as they would be alive more time, of different colors, giving that pleasant sensation to be in a rainbow nucleus. Birds singing used to give the welcome and be around during the visit, trying to give them a message of hope. And she used to pray and having long conversations with Mom. It was magic. All personal news during last month were deeply discussed, Each detail related to her study, her school activities, the women's soccer team she already belongs to, and all the new friends that arrived with it. No news about Daddy, as nobody wants to talk to me about him. I miss him a lot, remembering each day the lovely way he used to talk to me. For sure, now I know that the way he used to be with you wasn't right, swearing eternal love after a beating while you were falling down on the floor trying to recover makes no sense. Now I can understand. She also used to inform Mom what was happening in other countries to other people, which government had been replaced, trying not to forget anything that could clarify Mom about the reasons people were going to the streets, demanding a lot of different things. In that country, they are asking freedom. In that one, they ask less expensive gas. Somewhere, they ask maintaining the possibility to have weapons at home. They say this would keep them secure. Mom, possibly you'll be surprised to know that hunger continues in some countries and is increasing at others, including some ones where it wasn't known earlier. We all see a lot of news about children starving all around the world, and their pictures make me cry. Anyway, probably they should not make the politicians cry, as in the meantime, some countries are richer and richer, and others increasingly poor. Don't misunderstand me, Mom. I don't want the richer countries to be poor. What I really want is that poor countries could find the way against starving. New wars don't help. On the contrary, from time to time, we are informed about a new war that, together with the ones already existing, kill a lot of people and force others to let their home, their friends, their family, their life back and try to escape. Organizations and politicians discuss a lot their situation, trying to find a way for them to start a new life somewhere. But the ones that get arriving life to richer and organized countries mostly are returned to their countries to be killed, or in some cases, when they can stay in the new country, they are rejected by citizens that have the feeling to be stolen. Something like to replace local people at work, quite having their job stolen. I feel something is wrong on some people's heart as the situation continues this way and seems not to have a solution, no discussion. Chapter 5 University. Time arrived when the university was seen as the way to Hope and her friends. All of them were ever talking about what would like to study, about which university would be better to open their way to future. Hope had her decision very much clear since a long time ago, since she was 8 years old. She would try social sciences. The University of Southampton was far from home and was ever her first choice. Anyway, sometimes when thinking about what her best choice would be, the University of Nottingham looked like a good option. For sure, to be far from home during university looks like a very much better option, as could give Hope that sensation of freedom her soul was ever looking for. Finding her own possibilities out to discover her strengths was her desired path, and all her efforts were focused on that. For sure, this would mean an additional effort, not only hers, also from her family, as a university would mean additional expenses, still increased when it is far from home. And Hope should get a job for weekends, as being waitress would give her an additional possibility to know people and analyze them as she used to make during all life. Her friends were always talking about different professions: medicine, teaching, nursing, business administration. All of them were dreaming of different ways to follow, sometimes changing their minds due to last news about a new profession or statistics positioning one or other profession as more actual and possible to be successful. Medicine means a 6-year course, not taken lightly by students, meaning to be quite 24 hours a day studying. Mary's dreams were to be doctor without borders, giving her best during humanitarian disasters and helping people in extreme situations. Anne's dream was to go to University of Edinburgh and study nursing. She undoubtedly had the right personality, being an outstanding communicator and working very well as part of a team. She also would like to work to Doctors Without Borders, as ever felt herself perfectly capable of reacting very well under high-pressure situations. John and Paul were preparing themselves to go to University of East London. Their passion was ever trying to generate a more inclusive society, teaching children with special necessities. They will try to attend the course of special education needs and disabilities, SEND. Carol will go to University of Greenwich, as she will continue the family businesses and needs to be very well prepared too, as her whole family depends on her on it. She will study business administration with accounting and finance. No one was thinking of a stable job and a safe career. All of them were looking away to help people all over the world or their own family, and definitely no one was strongly settled on one decision. Just Hope had very much clear her decision. Social science, no discussion. Chapter 6, Celebration. This would be the first time traveling without Grandma, as each one of her friends would study at a different university. This meaning to be a long time away, an unforgettable trip was planned by them. After long hours of discussion, in reality months, trying to find a place to visit to be enjoyed by each one of them, they decided to know Ibiza. They'd studied on the map each particularity of the isle, how many beaches, where they're located, environment, weather, what to see, what to do. In short, they almost knew more of the isle than of London. Ibiza is in the World Heritage Site listing. With stunning turquoise water and white sand, winds, and beautiful rocks, is an isle of mysteries. They were excited with the possibility to know the beautiful and majestic Svedra, an uninhabited rock isle made of limestone. Svedra is shrouded in myths and legend. One of them defines it as the third most magnetic spot on Earth, after the North Pole and the Bermuda Triangle. For sure, there is no evidence to support this thought, besides some report that navigational instruments had affected in the vicinity of a Svedra. If not magnetic, Svedra certainly feels magical and transmits a feeling of peace. Not least, myths follow as to be home of the sirens and sea nymphs who tried to lure Ulysses from his ship in Homer's Odyssey. Also, to be birthplace of the goddess Tanit, whose statue can be seen all across Ibiza. In the 15th century, Nostradamus stated, Ibiza will be Earth's final refuge after Armageddon. He predicted that the prevailing winds of the isle will make it the only place able to sustain life after a nuclear fallout. They'd also studied Ibiza Spotlight's calendar, trying to find the best dates to the wonderful trip. All DJs, clubs, bars, restaurants, and parties deeply studied to choose the best. Hotel booking and air tickets had finally been confirmed. A shopping day had been sufficient and luggage was ready. For sure, all of them tried to find an economic balance and choose a four-star hotel and a list of restaurants where they should eat without exaggerating expenses was ready. Everything all right. Grandma had been saving during the last year in order to give Hope this joy. The trip day has come, and the six friends arranged everything to meet at the airport to start that great adventure. Their holidays would definitely be glamorous, wonderful, and unforgettable. This would be an amazing travel to Hope. No discussion. Chapter 7 Great Adventure. The plane took off at 10:30 a.m. All of them were very much excited. Their hearts were beating wildly, as if it was their first travel. It wasn't, but this time seemed to be a breaking in their lives between past and future, between being teenagers and adults. Sky was blue, and the white clouds seemed to project figures they immediately tried to identify. Carol showed a boat over there in the sea. Soon, the whale by the side of the boat, almost causing it to turn and sink, was found by John. No one could identify Anne's Stark carrying a baby but Mary, while all of them could identify that mermaid. Some sandwiches and orange juice had been asked, and each one of them had the feeling of being at a party. Each sandwich tasted happiness. They looked at the other passengers, and it seemed that everyone there was celebrating the university trip. Youth and happiness were literally in the air. Time to make new friends. Everybody talking about their plans for the future, commenting their last days at school, how families became very much happy about their university selection. It was amazing to know how many of their new friends had the same future dreams. Merit knew 3 more future doctors without borders. Carol exchanged phone number with at least 4 new friends that would be at the University of Greenwich next year. Nobody but John and Paul seemed to study at the University of East London. No one of the new friends, anyway, this wasn't an impediment to exchange numbers and try appointments to see each other when back home. Everything all right when those blue eyes made Hope's heart beat too fast. That very moment, she understood Vladimir Nabokov with "It was love at first sight, at last sight, at ever and ever sight." Damien seemed to be the oldest passenger, older in age, but with a young soul. Those blue eyes giving her the sensation of being deeply analyzed. A handsome and very much smart man. He was a DJ and was the only one in the plane going to Ibiza to work, not for fun. They kept talking for a long time, as long as the missing time to land. Damien wanted to know everything about her family and friends, about her future plans and feelings. He also had exciting opinions about the human being's situation in today's world. In a short time, he demonstrated to know about the politician situation of the modern world. But his views on the current human situation in different countries had maybe been what has definitely charmed her. Time to land arrived. A perfect landing. 2 hours and a half of party and happiness. New friends. A perfect adventure starting. No discussion. Chapter 8. Mermaids, Mermen, and the Isle. Definitely a magic isle. Knowing that local kind people gave them the sensation that each one had a deep secret. The mountains, easily visible to the eyes, also seemed to hide secrets kept for millions of years. Every tree, every stone, every grain of sand of those wonderful beaches seemed to say, "Look at me deeply, and I'll show you sensations never known, and that you'll never feel again." The hotel was simple and very cozy. Everything clean and comfortable. On TV, they could see BBC News, the refrigerator with plenty of water and soft drinks. From the window, they could see very cheerful people on the street, dressed to go to the beaches. They would start by recognizing the city, to know where the beaches were, the restaurants near to the hotel, shopping, and Hope's phone rang. What happiness! Less than 1 hour time, and Damien was already missing her. He was already missing talk to her. And she was really missing those blue eyes. It should be destiny calling her, and remembering happiness and magic were in the air. He would only start working at 10 p.m., and they could be together until there, having lunch, seeing the city, knowing everywhere. It was only one problem. He did not feel comfortable with her friends, for sure due to age difference. Her friends were too young, and he was already a man, a handsome man, very much responsible and intelligent. Her friends could not dissuade her from going alone to meet her new and immense love. She dressed her most fashionable outfit, made a perfect makeup trying to look older, and went direction to her lucky future. She became a bit embarrassed when he told her that the makeup was a bit overdone, that she was beautiful naturally and didn't need makeup. A bad sensation that finally didn't disturb her wonderful day, as he probably was right. For sure, he'd reason, as he was the most open-minded man she ever knew. It was a perfect day. He already knew the city, and she was sure everyone in the city already knew him. Of course, yes. He had been returning each summer during the last 8 years to work at same discotheque. He already knew where to go, the best beaches, the best restaurants, best places to have the necessary peace to talk, to know, and enjoy each other. Time to be back to the hotel, as he should go to the disco. But this wouldn't mean to be far from each other. That gentleman invited her, along with her friends, to go to the disco for free. She was delighted with the invitation, and no other way was considered or admitted. A perfect day would be locked with a perfect night, a golden key. No discussion. Chapter 9. A Perfect Night. All of them invited to the VIP room, but Hope, that was all night long alongside Damien. Dancing on the tables was a tradition there, and after some drinks and much music, the vibe was present everywhere in everyone. Time was passing on, and they were getting more and more fun. Celebration was the name. Celebration was in the air. Surely it seemed strange to Hope, that blonde girl, to be also in the private area next to Damien. That girl was very much pretty. Long hair, exaggerated makeup, and dancing hinting next to him. Anyway, Hope did not have to worry, as Damien did not like women with overdone makeup. During all night long, she stayed alongside Damien, enjoying him, loving that charming look, blue eyes, delighted with the few words he could drive her. In fact, she did not even miss her friends. She didn't remember them. Probably they would be enjoying the party very much, being fun. At least that was the perfect place to continue their great adventure. Damien, leaving her alone for more than 15 minutes did not seem odd to her, as he probably needed to talk about business during his performance intervals. He was a professional, a very much responsible man, and that was his job. For sure, business's negotiations should go well, as he returned super active, restless, talking a lot to her and to the other girls that now also were together with him. Hope just thought he should be very much tired, as those blue eyes sparkled, showing fatigue. Her friends decided to go back to the hotel, and Hope was quite obliged to accompany them. Damien asked her to wait, promising to take her back as soon as his exhibition would finish, but she thought better to return together with them. For sure, the day after she would go there with Damien without her friends, not to have to return with them. And so she did. The day after and all the other days, while she was there in the aisle. All day long together with him, visiting each Ibiza remote corner, mountains, restaurants, pubs, beaches, and during the night together at the disco. Last night she very much enjoyed finishing them at his hotel. The great adventure was really perfect and complete. Time to return home, together to her friends that had been delighted with the trip, farewell at the airport, very much emotion. She probably wouldn't see him anymore, but definitely those fantastic days wouldn't be forgotten. No discussion. Chapter 10. Winter. Grandma was at the airport to pick her up. Hope started telling her everything about the wonderful trip, that great adventure in detail. How the isle, the people, beaches, mountains, the trees, the birds, the restaurants, the discotheque were. During the way home and also at home during hours, Hope didn't stop talking. There was a lot to talk about. She talked everything about her trip but Damien. In reality, she did not understand herself. Why hadn't she talked about Damien? No matter. She was thinking that probably would never more see him, that he would be part of the adventure and nothing else. Soon, real life knocked on her door, and she started to work on weekends at the pub. It was necessary, as Grandma's salary would be sufficient for university fees as well as the other normal expenses, but the books were too much expensive, and Hope decided to help, to contribute with her grain of sand. Some new friends at the university started to be part of her new life. Most of them used to go to the pub during the weekend just to see her, to spend some time together. The trip had been already forgotten, and Hope was perfectly adapted to the new reality. Few months have passed without a calling from Damien. She tried to call him after returning, without success. So she thought that the only solution would be to forget him, and she did it. Then winter arrived, and it happened. She saw those blue eyes coming in, staring at her, making her body shudder. She would still work 2 hours more, and he waited her to finish. On the way home, they talked a lot. He explained to her how difficult had been to continue at Ibiza without her, missing the time they had been together, missing the sunset walks. The magic had been lost after her departure. Businesses had obliged him to continue there, to meet the contracted terms, and that was what he did. As soon as possible, he left the isle and went back to London, trying to find her. It was a bit difficult, but he got information on how to find her, and there he was. Hope asked why he doesn't just pay a call, as he had the number, and she tried to call him up without success. Loss of the phone for sure had been the reason. He'd suffered greatly from her absence and was spending every minute trying to find her. It seemed like a dream. Damien really was falling in love with Hope, and now this was completely proved. No discussion. Chapter 11. Time to Love. During several months, Hope's routine had been filled with love. Her classes at university seemed to be longer and longer. Her thoughts were just for Damien, and her concentration and attention to classes had dropped down. Hope friends started not to come anymore to the pub, as Damien was there all the time, and she just had eyes and words for him. In reality, Hope didn't realize their absence. Her world had been transformed, and Damien was the nucleus, her universe sun. Grandma was very much worried with this new situation, and Hope tried to explain her that love is the most important. Love must be the axis that moves the world. Never mind, her friends were no more there. Damien was. No matter about the university. She would recover it later. What really mattered was to be together with him. Each very moment he was by her side, remembering her how wonderful she was. Everyday walks around the town made her realize how smart and knowledgeable he was. He ever used to make the right comment about locals, about situations, about people. His way of seeing women's situation, several times reiterating that they have the right to choose their own life, showed her he was a man of today, with an open mind. His attention and tenderness used to make her feel like a princess. Amazing just was to feel as a different princess, not the ones described on grandma histories, not a free and strong princess. She was feeling like a weak princess, depending on his love. Princess was how her father used to name her and her mother a long time ago. My little princess, he'd tell her every night before going to bed. This made Hope remember forgotten feelings. Suddenly, she started to feel same weakness as when she was a child and did not understand what was happening. Anyway, together with him, all these feelings used to disappear as he should protect her against anything in the world. Grandma wasn't happy about him, and Hope didn't understand the given reasons. To be older than her, to be every moment together with her, or calling her up many times every day, trying to know where she was and what she was doing, was certainly a great proof of love, and she was very much happy about. Hope also did not understand the reason to be like her father was a fault. Moreover, what did they look like? In the short conversations she had with her friends about him, they always let clear to Hope that he wasn't appreciated by them. They never let clear the reasons, talking about the sense that he would make her unhappy. What do they mean with unhappy? This was impossible. He was definitely falling in love with her and the kindest person she ever knew. Her friends were jealous. No discussion. Chapter 12. Summer. This summer, no trip had been planned. Hope had to study, ever she wants to continue at the university. Her absences to be with Damien and her lack of concentration were reflected in the results. Damien had to go back to Ibiza to work, and he tried anyway her to accompany him. Grandma finally convinced her to stay and try to recover lost time on studies. No problem. Each very hour time, Damien was calling her up and they were talking about anything new that could happen during their day. He would always know where she was, with whom she was, what she was doing. They would be 3 months of absence, and they already were feeling the lack of each other just some days after his trip starting. Their hearts hurt, but their love would survive. Hope friends coming quite every day to help her on pending studies. They also put in so many months of conversation, so much news in the world during time without seeing each other. Soon, Damien's phone callings started to arrive twice a day, and then just once. Hope was very much occupied, so this helped her to have sufficient time to actualize her studies. Anyway, she couldn't stop thinking if this was happening because of that Damien's beautiful blonde friend that was still living at Ibiza. No time to think a lot always helps in these situations when one has nothing to do about, and Hope continued to study and working during weekends. She, in fact, started not to feel very well. Some nausea, she couldn't even smell anything, and started to eat less. Anyway, instead of losing weight, began to gain it. And even feeling bad, she was always hungry. Mary accompanied her to the doctor, and her suspicion was confirmed. She was pregnant. She could not explain it, since Damien, for sure, had been always using protection. A storm of thoughts blocked her from thinking clearly. She started to remember how many times Damien told her a son would make him very much happy. Also, remembering the protests, my body, my decision, she'd attended, ever fighting for women's freedom. Grandma was trying her to think about her future to be undoubtedly bright. For sure, she could continue attending university classes normally during some time, but she should remember a baby needs care, clothing, remedies, good food, school, and she was remembering Hope all kinds of financial commitments that would mean. Hope thought the best to seek Damien's support for this important decision and explained him during a phone calling what the options were. Damien's reaction made Hope very much happy and relieved, as he told her not to worry about, that they would be together and he would take care of her. He immediately convinced her that the baby arrival would be the best in their lives. The baby would be very much welcome, no discussion. Chapter 13 Autumn. Damien had been already back, and they effectively put into practice their new life planned by phone during last summer. Searching a small apartment to rent took some time, but they found a beautiful, not too far from Grandma, at a good price. Just 15 days had been sufficient for them to be together, and the new and wonderful life waiting for the baby, looking to the future. For sure, Hope would not continue the university until the baby be older. Damien didn't want anyone else to take care of the baby. She should continue her studies later on. They prepared the baby's room with great taste. Everything new, furniture, curtains, toys all over the room. The walls had been painted blue and pink. As soon as the confirmation that the baby would be a girl, one of the walls was painted by a Damien's friend with a beautiful princess sprayed graffiti. On a light blue and white cloud, the blonde princess, dressed in several shades of pink and white, was kindly looking to the baby crabs. Choosing baby's name wasn't difficult. That's right, that a lot of suggestions were arriving each day, from friends, from grandma, but Hope decided that the better would be Damien's mother's name, as he suggested. It would be an honor, and he would be very happy about. Damien had become more serious every day, and Hope started to ask him about, trying to know what was going wrong. He was arriving later every day, probably due to have to work much, as home expenses had increased dramatically. She'd never realized so much money was necessary to support home expenses, and he probably didn't either. Anyway, she shouldn't find a job at this moment, not until the baby to be born. Otherwise, Damien had already commented several times that he wasn't out to afford home expenses. So, why did he become more and more serious and boring? She was trying to talk about, but Damien didn't want to. He was arriving late. No more time for conversations was found, and complaints about food and household cleaning were becoming more and more frequent. Winter was already ending, and everything was ready after all. The doctor said that the baby would be born soon. It took some months, but everything was ready to receive the princess. No discussion. Chapter 14. Spring. Sunshine came in and lit up the whole room as if an angel was there. Yes, she was an angel arriving and filling Hope's life with joy. Spring had been born. Damien and Grandma were there at the hospital waiting room, and they saw Spring passing down the corridor, carried by the nurse. She was really very beautiful and seemed to smile at them. A kind smile, promising a lovely, wonderful future. The day after was busy to Hope, all friends visiting her at the hospital, each one astonished at Spring beauty, giving her congratulations and bringing a gift. Also, the pub and university colleagues had been there at the hospital, paying a visit and giving Hope too much happiness, making her feel special. At the end of the day, the hospital room was completely full of teddy bears, newborn baby clothes, baby slippers, little dolls, and for sure, full of love. That day seemed to be the happiest of Hope's life. It only struck her that Damien had to work just when his daughter had just been born. Hope felt it was sad that he missed the first moments of his little princess' life. Time to go home, and Grandma was there to take Hope and the baby. Damien once again had to work. For sure, with the new responsibilities, he had to try harder to keep the house and the baby. What a surprise was to meet him at home with that blonde Hope had known in Ibiza. Damien had finished work earlier, and his friend had come to know the little baby. Hope was feeling very tired, and after eating something prepared by Grandma, she lay down. Damien promised that he could take care of both Hope and the baby, and Grandma went home. She would be back the day after to help ever necessary. During all night, Damien had been there, taking care of the baby, her little princess, and giving her to Hope every 2 hours when she was hungry. All night long, he was there, and early in the morning, he suggested the baby to be in Hope's bed, as this would make her life easier. She would easier be breastfeeding her. Grandma was back and took care of both the baby and Hope. She explained about the disadvantages of moving the baby to Hope's room. For sure, during the first 6 months' life would seem easier, and risks of SIDS due to dozing off while breastfeeding the baby on a sofa or armchair are very much discussed. For sure, her opinion was that a baby needs independence ever since it's born, meaning greater efforts in their care, not to avoid the needed proximity. Grandma thought the most important at that very moment was to protect the baby. Never mind efforts parents should do to. Avoiding alcohol, smoking, and medications that should cause draw signs had, in her thinking, the most important guidelines to be followed. And love, too much love. As soon as Hope was feeling better, she gave a look to baby's room. She would put in the drawers the new baby's clothes and decorating her room with all the gifts received at the hospital from Hope's friends. And where they were! She couldn't understand how all the gifts had been lost by Damien. He had forgotten them on the bus and could not find them anymore. It was a great shame. No discussion. Chapter 15. Pardon. All new responsibilities had made Damien be more and more time far from home. His working trips were more frequent, and financial difficulties were making him more nervous. He was dividing time spent at home between his attention to Spring and showing his displeasure in relation to anything Hope was trying to do or did. When having lunch at home, hot food was too poor, and the same during dinner was cold. Checking furniture for dust was now one of his favorite activities when being at home. Complaints about the house cleaning became each time more frequent. No mind what cares the baby was requiring. Longer trips had been more and more frequent, and he started not to say where he would be tomorrow. Her friends had stopped coming, as Damien always had some rudeness towards them, until the only Hope's company was Grandma, who continued ever coming to help with the baby, also taking care of Hope. She was ever trying to spend not too much at the supper. Her clothes were the old ones. Nothing new had been purchased since spring arrived, as she was aware of the financial difficulties, until the day she found herself all alone without money to buy the baby's bottle. Damien didn't come to the phone. He was very much occupied, and the only solution was to ask Grandma some help. Help came to Hope's home, and everything was right up to Damien's return. This time, Hope claimed about Damien's late actions, about his actual conduct, and about him being always angry. She talked about his constant absence, being or not traveling, about her actual lack of concern about having or not having food at home. For sure, she was aware of the increasing expenses with the baby and proposed to work to, at least, give some help. This sounded to Damien like a loud bang of lightning, and a storm had been formed in their home. His immediate reaction was to give her a strong push, and she fell down on the floor. Hope wasn't hurt, just for sure, in her deep herself. She was very much surprised by his reaction, as he has always shown himself as being a modern man, intelligent, and always had good arguments about women's freedom. She also felt herself very surprised with his immediate request of forgiveness. He really seemed regret, much sorry. But she was feeling very much confused and was needing to think about. Grandma just told her that whatever she would decide, she ever would help Hope. Finally, she decided to give Damien one more chance. Everybody should have one more chance. Nobody's perfect. But she let him know that this would be the only chance she would give him. All this situation had Hope remember her earlier years, her parents' discussions, how these discussions became stronger and stronger, how her mother tried during some years hide the marks of received punches and kicks. This would be the only time she would forgive him, as she wouldn't want this to herself. No discussion. Chapter 16. The Safe Harbor. Following months became a nightmare. Discussions were part of their time together during the little time he was spending at home. Grandma was there whenever possible, and no doubt her help was very much needed, including financially. Her friends were already calling her up, including Mary, that now was traveling with Doctors Without Borders. Everyone seemed to know about her situation, and they were ready to try to help ever possible. Hope did not know how they'd known about. Probably Grandma had commented to Anne and she to the others. Clear was that this support was coming at a great time, as situation at home was worse. Shouts had already replaced the conversations and were part of their new life. Only moments Damien was talking normally were when talking to her princess. Until the day when Spring wasn't feeling very well and she didn't stop crying. Damien was tired and wanted to sleep. He asked several times Hope to make her stop crying and finally went to the baby's room and shook the baby up. Hope attacked him as a lioness, trying to keep him from continuing, and his punches and kicks made her believe he would kill her. The day after, Hope was alive, but she couldn't stop crying. Her body was injured, but what was really bad was her soul. Just thinking about the danger that would mean Spring to be shaken up was filling her soul with fear. She was crying a lot and continued crying during all the time took to collect all hers and baby's things. She continued crying when calling Grandma up and asked her to return home, now together with the Spring. She also continued crying on the way to the police station to ask a restraining order to protect her and the baby. Nothing and nobody could make her stop crying during most days. Damien tried to talk to her by phone, and she couldn't, as she just was crying during all the time. The only place to make her stop crying definitely was the garden, with its rainbow of colors, flowers, birds, and its song. That had been her mum and now was her safe harbor. The difference would no doubt be that she would never go back to that hell, never would hide what really happened, neither for the world nor for herself. And she was sure to have all the support she would need for a better future. Not only her, but also her daughters. It was there where hope decided. No more pardon, no way, no discussion.